First off, BK, thank you for allowing us in.
Thank you for having me.
We're just gonna build on everything,
Cool.
everything where you came from, everything where you're going, and just basically, we got 5 questions we're just gonna talk. Cool. The first question is, as I tell everybody, an easy question. At the same time, it might be the most difficult question you answer.
Okay.
And it's basically, what is your favorite color and why?
It's crazy, actually. The answer might be pretty simple for being an artist. My favorite color is yellow, and the simplest reason is I just love it. I love it the best at all. I love yellow cars, yellow clothes, yellow shoes, yellow everything. Yellow.
Does it make you feel like? And what does it make you feel? Is it a feeling of? Is it a joyous feeling? Does it take you back somewhere?
You know, they say that certain colors, you know, signal certain emotions, and for me, when I paint, I think it's such a natural flow of the emotion to the color that the thought process doesn't exist. So as far as, you know, I know yellow is supposed to mean happiness. Obviously it's a bright color, sunshine, and maybe there's an underlying reason to why I have an affinity for it. But on a very simple level, man, I just love yellow. It's been my favorite color since I was a kid, and there's really not a good reason for it. I just love it.
No, that's the best reason. That's what art and that's what colors are supposed to do. That's something you're supposed to do. Who would you say was your biggest influence as far as painting or as far as creating?
For me, without a doubt, it was Salvador Dali. You know, art was always something different before I had discovered him. You know, he was I was put onto him by my high school art teacher, who basically said, you know, you have to study this guy's work. You have to look at him and understand what he did, and I think you'll really get it. And I think he knew that there would be a connection there in some way, and it just opened up my eyes to the idea that a painting can be a story. You know, a painting can be political, it can be, you know, religious, it can be educational, it can be out of this world, surreal, and at the same time have 5 or 6 different themes or stories within it that can be, you know, digested at different times, or, you know, discovered that weren't looked at the first time. And that just really struck me in a way that I said from that point on, I was like, you know what, that's the kind of art I want to make. I don't know what you call it, or what you're going to label it, or what kind of style you say I have,
right,
but I'm going to figure out how to make a style that's mine, that does that.
Right, and allow the observer to digest it however they may and interpret it.
I think that the artist and the observer and the artist and the collector are inherently connected in such a deep way, because, you know, the same way that they say there's a tree fall in the forest, does it make a sound?
Right.
Nobody's there to hear it. It's a good question. Nobody can really answer it. Of course, you know, nature says, you know, the laws of science. Yeah, it makes a sound. So,
right,
you know, but if I make a painting in the studio and you're not there to see it or digest it, can it make a sound? You know what I mean? So I need you in the same way that people say that we need art as a culture, as humans. You know, me as the artist, I also need you to digest it.
Right.
So that connection, you know, I want to give you all of me. I want to give you everything I got, so that you can't digest me in 30 seconds. You can't microwave me. You know what I mean? You really got to sit down for a meal, because there's going to be an appetizer, there's going to be a main course, and then there's a dessert at the end. You know what I mean?
That goes back to what I had said earlier, where the paintings have to be viewed more than once to appreciate. Just hidden little messages and little ill, crazy things that you slide in there that people may not notice if they just scan it one time. But after I had seen your Poppington gallery, immediately after that, you came up with the Bk Dali Exhibit. And how do you feel? Because you didn't recreate his stuff. You took his stuff and modernized it, and you took his stuff and made it yours, and made it to something that our generation can understand? And how do you feel the reception was, and how do you feel you translated it, what you intended to tell?
I think that simply said, I feel like what I set out to do, I did, and I was successful in that sense. That was a crazy period of time altogether, to have a show at Dame Dash's Gallery, Poppington, and then to follow that up 1 month later with the opening for Dali. Dali had been in the works for 2 years. I had not taken on any commission pieces, any shows really, and focused 100% of my time in creating the artwork. And so by the time it had come to the summer previous to the opening, I had the opportunity to show at Poppington, and it was a no-brainer because Dame's always been someone that I looked up to, and I grew up really, feeling like he was one of the people I would love to connect with one day.
Right.
So to have the opportunity at that gallery to put up my signature work, and then a month later to put out the Bk Dali show, which the entire theme of the show was, what if Dali was born in 1983 and not 1904?
Right.
Because I had never made it a secret that he was such an inspiration to me. So when I had finally derived my own style that people could say, that's BK's work, a very frequent comment was always, you remind me of a new school Dali, or it's very Dali-esque.
Which I've heard the same comparison.
A lot, And I've always taken it as a compliment. And that's kind of what gave me the idea for the show, because I said, well, I don't make these pieces trying to be like Dali or thinking that, I'm using Dali's style. These are the pieces that I would sit down and this is what would come out when I said, let's create. So I said, well, what if I really did sit down and want to create, Dali-esque work? And so I challenged myself to say, what if he grew up and he was one of my boys, that grew up with me and experienced my life from the angle of being, a young kid on the East Coast and trying to follow a dream in urban America. So I took the first 6 months researching his work, looking at pieces that I thought would translate or that I felt inspired, in certain ways to reinvent them. And so once I got the lineup together, it was about 1.5 years of straight painting, just getting to work. And then, they always say the universe works in mysterious ways, and for me, that summer of 2013, towards the end of it, everything lined up, and it all came crashing at the same time. The fall, the end of summer, and I had the 2 shows, and it was a success in the sense that, aside from the exposure and really getting on the map for the first time personally, I'm never 100% satisfied artistically, but I was satisfied in the sense that I really put my mind to something to change my life, to really give myself the opportunity to be an artist, and it worked, and I was very happy to say I did it.
And as a just on a fan level, I mean, I was just I was amazed by it. Now, you spoke on the end of 2013, and I would like to put it that you were, in my eyes, you were mentioned in about a week, I want to say, or a 2-week span. You were mentioned by the Holy Trinity of hip hop, which was Puff Daddy, Sean Combs, Oliver Power Grant of the Wu, and Dame Dash of the Rock. And that was all after the Dali exhibit, which brought you, the exposure you wanted. Then you got these cosigns. Then you proceeded to do, I mean, I could just go off the list where you did the Red Bull, you did the Black History Month recently, you did the Black and White exhibit. You're doing all these things, you're doing all these events, you're continuing to succeed, and the success is coming in, the exposure is coming in. But you're doing also something that I feel is more important, which is where you're being recognized by schools, and you're visiting schools, and you're talking to these students, and you're telling them a story of a college professor who maybe didn't support you as much. And you could just tell us that story, first of all, on the college professor. We want to touch on that so everybody knows that story, because I feel it's very inspirational. And just how you feel going to these schools, talking to the kids, you know, what it is you're telling them, how do you feel they're receiving it?
Cool. You know, to be mentioned, to touch on the first part by those guys all at the same period of time was surreal in its own right. You know, what was crazy about it is if you see how it was all linked together, you know, it's really a crazy story, and it's one of those things where I kind of look back at it and feel like it was all meant to happen, you know. First of all, I was always about being independent. When I graduated college, I started my own company because I wanted to make sure I was working on my dream and not somebody else's. And who did I get that blueprint from? Quite literally looking at Dame and Jay and what they did, you know? And to have the opportunity to show in his gallery, and then for him to become a collector of my work through a painting of Biggie.
Right.
And to have the cosign from somebody who's notoriously, you know, who really, if you look at Jay-Z and Kanye, they're the two biggest movers and shakers of pop culture, and he's the one that put them on, you know. So for him to show confidence and faith in my work was a blessing, and also just something that was unbelievable for me to even experience. But the piece that he purchased was a Biggie.
Right.
So fast forward to have Puff, you know, put that Biggie piece out, to know that he saw it and to co-sign it. And you know, I can't even imagine what the thoughts in his mind when he saw that piece about his friend.
Right.
You know?
I'm pretty sure he wanted it.
It's crazy. You know? And to bring it all full circle, what really got me into hip-hop culture when I was a little kid was Wu-Tang.
Right.
You know what I mean? So quite literally those three being connected through my work as, you know, the constant between all three is really incredible, man. It's one of those things where you chalk it up like, if you really believe in what you're doing and you go hard enough, eventually it's going to connect, and it did for me. So that really led to the exposure that I had to be, you know, offered to talk to kids or to visit high schools or to tell my story. And that's always been one of the biggest and most amazing things that I think having the talent of being an artist comes with, is the responsibility and what your story can inspire into someone else. To be very real about it, you know, at some point, you know you're a good artist because you can see what you put out. So, you know, everybody's saying, we love your work, thank you, you know, it's really beautiful. I love those compliments, they're great. You know, I don't ever want them to stop.
Right.
But when somebody says that I inspire them, or they decided to go and paint, or to really believe in what they do because of my story and what I do, those are the compliments that really hit you in the chest, man. They stick with you. You know, they're the ones that you can't even answer right away because your voice is going to sound weird because it's cracking. Right. You know, it really hits you. And
that's the truest reward.
Yeah, man, I think, so to look at me and my story to come from, you know, something that I never really thought I could be an artist or call myself an artist, and now to have the opportunity to have a high school art class coming to see my show to talk to me, I think it's such a blessing, you know, because your word is your power, you know, and what you say and what you speak is your biggest gift, you know, and to be able to communicate my story to these kids and look at their faces and to know that they see themselves in me, or they see an opportunity to not have to give up and believe that, you know, being creative and being different and being weird, or, you know, whatever it may be, that's cool, man. You can do it and you can follow through. So, I love doing it. I wish I could do it more, and I fully expect that, you know, as I grow and my career grows, that I'll be in a position to do so, and I really can't wait.
Really quick, can you just tell us a story about the professor, the infamous professor?
Sure, he will remain nameless. So by the time I got the opportunity to pick some courses in college outside of what your major is, I decided, of course, I want to take painting. So my first critique, which is, you know, a really big deal, everybody goes in front of the class, the students and the teacher give you constructive criticism. it was probably a turning point in my career because I don't remember anything else that was said from anybody except the professor said that I was better suited for the computer lab upstairs. I was a designer and not a painter. And it just stuck with me so much to say that I felt like what I was doing and the talent that I possessed was enough to at least say that maybe I should try it out and see what I could do with it. And to be shut down like that was, you know, the beginning of a really big journey to prove myself, you know. And then the irony come full circle even with this interview is upstairs I'm learning about graphic design, computer stuff, and one of the first things you learn about is color and Pantone. And to basically be told that I belonged up there and not to be an artist, and then, you know, a decade later to be an artist and have a good career, you know, going on at the time that I'm interviewed by Pantone for my art and not graphic design is, I think, a beautiful testament that, you know, never to listen when somebody tells you no, and that if you really work hard enough, you can make it whatever you want to do.
Right, and that's what we gotta teach the kids. Come back to the school thing that I was talking about earlier. So just to wrap things up, let us know what's next. What shows you got coming up? What's down the pipeline? Some works that are unfinished behind us. Some finished pieces that we'll be showing some pictures of. Let us just know what's next. What's coming out?
Well, the pieces behind us are actually in progress. You're getting an exclusive sneak peek to some unreleased work, so I'm not going to drop too much about those, but I have very lucky to have a solo show coming up May 1st at the Atelier building, which is 42nd Street and 11th. So it's probably going to be over 20 works. A mini retrospective in a sense. It's going to be some of the more popular pieces from the past as well as some never before seen new work. So that show will probably run all summer into maybe August or September, so it's really going to be a nice space to direct people who want to see my work and have a great opening, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Okay. And we'll make sure we're there to cover it. So thank you once again.
Thank you very much for having me.
The
I
artist.
appreciate it.
And that's a wrap for us.